night it would get hot. And I remember coming in on those hot days early and setting up and finding every fan I could, and I don't think it made a difference at all. But it was hot. Several people this morning have asked me, they really have, several people said, Pastor, is this anything like Louisiana weather? And the answer is yes. This is exactly, if you like hot and humid, like today, you need to move to Louisiana, because you're going to get it just like this every day from about the end of May to the middle of October. Now, up here, we have pretty much cooler weather all summer with occasional hot spells like this. You have a few days and they go away. Down there, we have hot all the time, and there are no cool spells. Maybe, and it seems as if, because I used to take note of this, about 3:30 in the afternoon, you would see the thunderstorm clouds starting to gather, and it would rain, and it would cool things down by 10 or 15 degrees, only to have the sun come back out in an hour and the humidity go up to, if it can go up to 120%, it would go up to 120%. But, and so if you were down in Louisiana, go down there today, you're not going to see anybody out, you're not going to see kids playing outside, you're not going to see people working in their gardens. You know, everybody's inside and the air conditioners are humming. And that's the way it is. All you got to do is walk outside. You walk outside at 6 o'clock in the morning, walk outside in the middle of the night, and it's hot and sweaty. So, Sharon, do you miss that? No, now, you ladies would appreciate it. It does a number on your hair, right? And that's one of the things she didn't like about that. One other thing. Let me just get it off my chest, okay? Maybe Sunday morning's not the time to get it off your chest, but I'm going to get it off my chest. Brother Casey mentioned, and he referred to this after-church social event as an afterglow. How many of you, like me, think that's the dumbest name in the world? What does that mean, afterglow? That's just, I mean, okay, I'm going to challenge you to come up with a better name, okay? Afterglow. Let's say a visitor comes in that never been in church in their life, never heard the word, and we said we were having an afterglow. He might think we're having a drinking party, right? So we need another name. So I'm going to challenge you. How about just after-church fellowship? I mean, that'll work. But Sharon, do you find it strange, the name Afterglow? You hadn't thought about it. Well, I have time on my hands. I think about it. So anyway, Afterglow. Well, would anybody agree with me? At least that's kind of an odd name. Okay, there's a few hands there. All right. Well, the challenge is out there. If you can come up with a better name than Afterglow, and hopefully maybe even a catchy name, but not Afterglow. All right, let's begin. I want to help you this morning. The title of the message this morning is What to Do When You're Scraping the Bottom of the Barrel. He's scraping the bottom of the barrel. How many of you have used that term in your life before? Scraping the bottom of the barrel. Yes. The phrase bottom of the barrel vividly conveys the idea of scraping up the last or worst of available options or resources. When you get to the bottom of the barrel, it means you're in trouble. You don't have a lot of options. You don't have a lot of resources. It's illustrated this way. Let's say you have a barrel full of apples, and you start eating the apples out of that barrel. And as time passes by, some of the apples begin to rot. So you don't eat those, you just eat the good ones that you have in the barrel. Well, when you get down to the bottom of the barrel, all you got is a bunch of rotten apples, and things are pretty desperate at that point, particularly if you like apples. So it's not a good thing when you find yourself scraping the bottom of the barrel. Technically, you can say it's a metaphorical way of saying that there is little left, or that what remains isn't the best. So I think we can all say that that does describe certain time periods in our life, certain situations in our life. Most everybody in here raised their hand of having said before, we're at the bottom of the barrel, or I'm at the bottom of the barrel. When you say that, that is an indication that things are pretty desperate. Things are pretty bad. With that in mind, I want us to look to a Bible story. And at some point in life, this quote concerning this story, most of us face the problem of dwindling resources. The story of the widow of Zarephath should encourage us to trust the Lord to supply our needs at all times. We get the title, Scraping the Bottom of the Barrel, from a story found in the Old Testament in 1 Kings chapter 17, to be specific. And I think it's a story that we can relate to, at least at different periods of our life. Hopefully your whole life isn't a matter of scraping the bottom of the barrel, but all of us can probably tell of a time when we felt we were there. We were scraping the bottom of the barrel. We didn't have a lot of good options. We didn't have a lot of good resources, and we were perplexed, dismayed, maybe even filled with anxiety. And the Lord loves us, and He doesn't want us to be perplexed, dismayed, or filled with anxiety. So He recorded a story. Didn't have to record this story, but He recorded this story, and miraculously it has survived for thousands of years, I believe, because He loves you. And He knows that you may be in a situation similar to this woman. And by studying this woman and thinking about her, you can find yourself in a better position rather than thinking that all I'm doing is scraping the bottom of the barrel. This story can encourage you. Even if you're in a difficult time, even if you're scraping the bottom of the barrel right now. What is the story? Well, we begin in 1 Kings chapter 17, verse number 8. And the word of the Lord came unto him, that's Elijah. He's a prophet. And the Lord tells him, Arise, get thee to Zarephath, which belongeth to Zidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow woman, not a rich person, not a wealthy person, not a young, healthy person. I have commanded a widow woman there to sustain thee. So we're introduced to this woman. So Elijah, he arose and went to Zarephath. And when he came to the gate of the city, behold, the widow woman was there, gathering of sticks. And he called to her and said, Fetch me, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel that I may drink. And as she was going to fetch it, he called to her and said, Bring me, I pray thee, a morsel of bread in thine hand. And she said, As the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake. I don't even have a cake to offer you, but a handful of meal in a barrel, and a little oil in a cruse, and behold, I'm gathering 2 sticks that I may go in and dress it for me and my son, that we may eat it and die. And Elijah said unto her, Fear not, go and do as thou hast said, but make me thereof a little cake first, and bring it unto me. And after make for thee and for thy son. For thus saith the Lord God of Israel, The barrel of meal shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil fail, until the day that the Lord sendeth rain upon the earth. And she didn't argue with him. She didn't say, That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. She didn't say, Are you crazy? She went and did according to the saying of Elijah. And she and he and her house did eat many days. And the barrel of meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by Elijah. Now, that story happened, think about it, several thousand years ago. And it was miraculously recorded, and it was miraculously preserved. And I today, as a mere mortal man, am standing before you somewhat miraculously reliving, reteaching, re-emphasizing that story for you. The Lord knew several thousand years ago that you might be in a similar situation as this woman. Maybe not as stressful, maybe more stressful. But that's how much the Lord loves you. And he saved this story just for you, and he impressed it upon my heart. This is unusual. This doesn't happen every week, but I don't know why I need to share it with you, but I'm going to share it with you. This is the third message that I've preached this morning. I started off with another message last Monday, got into that, and I thought, you just sense it's not going anywhere. So I came up with another. I said, oh, okay, that's why the Lord wanted me to do this message. So I started a second message about Tuesday or Wednesday. And again, I just didn't have peace about it. I can't explain. Something inside of me, I'm not comfortable with it. And then the Lord led me to this. So I believe something that started 2,000 years ago is culminating today for your benefit and for mine as well. When I preach these messages, I preach to myself. So think about that. Think about the significance of that. I mean, this story began a long time ago, and it's here today piercing your ears and your heart to help you. I mean, that's a great God who's capable of doing wonderful things, who is demonstrating his love to us this morning. This woman was indeed, literally, scraping the bottom of the barrel. She had one final handful of meal, and I imagine she scraped for every little piece of that she could. And she thought the end was near. This is it. There's no more. There's none at the store. Can't order any from Amazon. Can't run down to Walmart. This is it. And her situation to her was bleak. I mean, she really thought she and her son were going to die. And that's what she told Elijah. And it appeared that way. Just looking at the circumstances, it appeared that way. Now, perhaps you're in a similar situation today. Perhaps today you would say, Pastor, that describes a certain situation in my life right now. I really do feel like I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel. It may be someone listening to my voice that feels like they're scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to save their marriage. There are people in very difficult situations in marriage, and you say, yeah, that describes it. I'm trying to save the marriage, but Pastor, yeah, I'm scraping the bottom. I've done everything I know to do. I don't know what else to do. Or perhaps that would describe the way you're trying to salvage a wayward child. Maybe you're dealing with a difficult younger child, or maybe a wayward older child, and you've done everything you know to do. And it would be an accurate description to say of you that when it comes to trying to help this child that you're burdened for, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. Maybe you've been battling a sin all your life. We would call it, the Bible would call it a besetting sin. A besetting sin is a persistent sin. And maybe you've been battling a persistent sin all your life. And you really do want to overcome it. And you've tried to overcome it. And you've tried everything you know to do. And right now, it seems as if that sin still gets the best of you, and you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. Maybe you're scraping the bottom of the barrel just trying to get along with somebody. A relative, a co-worker, a neighbor. Maybe you're scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to make ends meet. Well, God loves you, and God knew several thousand years ago that you'd be scraping the bottom of the barrel, And so he gives us this story that is dealing with that. I mean, literally scraping the bottom of the barrel and figuratively what that represents. And if we will pause on this Sunday morning at our family gathering, if we pause, we can be helped. The Lord wants to speak to you this morning. And we're going to learn several things about what you can do and what you're facing from this woman. First of all, we learned this, and I think it's important. We learn from this story that bad things happen in this world. Bad things happen in this world. I mean, we have to accept that. In verse number 12, and she said, as the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake, but a handful of meal in a barrel and a little oil in a cruse. And she thought she was going to die. Well, why was she experiencing that? I mean, she was a widow lady. There's no indication that she was a bad sinner or a rebel or a non-believer. I mean, she was apparently a simple, good widow lady. But she lives in a sin-cursed world. We need to understand that. And the problems that she was facing, she didn't blame God. She shouldn't blame God because it's not right to blame God for the problems she's having or the problems you're having. You live in a sin-cursed world. If we're going to blame anybody, let's blame ourselves. This world became sin-cursed through our original mother and father of millennia ago, Adam and Eve. And has continued ever since up unto us. And as Adam and Eve were cursed of God because of their sins, we deserve the same because we're sinners. So let us keep a perspective that we live in a sin-cursed world. Do not be mad at God because He's not at fault. He gave us a free will. He gave us the ability to make moral choices. It was very clear what He told Adam and Eve, and it was very simple. Don't eat of this tree. And then Satan comes along and says, he's trying to trick you. He's pulling one on you. You need to eat of that tree. And very simple, just don't eat. I mean, look, everything's perfect. You're not lacking anything, but she and Adam fell for it. And they rebelled against a loving, gracious God. They rebelled. So God, being just, has to punish wrong. He has to punish sin. He has to. They can't rebel against Him and He'd look the other way. You'd say, that's not right. He had to punish them. Just as He had to punish them, He has to punish us because we're sinners just like them. So we live in a sin-cursed world. Now, as Christians, yes, I think we can avoid many of the sins in this world by living a holy, righteous life, but not all. I mean, by not drinking, you won't become a drunk. And the Bible tells us not to drink. By, not abusing your body, you're not going to experience the things that other people experience from abusing their body. You're going to avoid that. But you're not going to avoid everything. You're not going to avoid every heartache. None of us are going to avoid death. So it's a simple truth, but it's a truth that can bring perspective to any trial that you're going through. It's not necessarily that God is judging you, or, it may be, and God will reveal that to you, but understand, in this world, we're going to experience trials and difficulties. Don't be shocked, don't be dismayed, and don't shake your fist at God when you reach the point that you feel like you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. Listen to what Peter says. Peter gives us some insight. He said, "Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened unto you." I talked about maturity the other day, preached on that and immaturity. Well, if you're one that, you're going through a trial and how could that happen to me? I am born again. You're just being immature. You just don't know what you're talking about. Peter is telling us here, don't think it's some strange thing that's happened to you, but rejoice inasmuch as ye are partakers of Christ's suffering, that when his glory shall be revealed, ye shall be made glad also with exceeding joy. Don't think it's some strange thing that you're having to scrape the bottom of the barrel right now. Don't think it's some strange thing. Don't think it's something strange that you're going through a trial. As Christians, we can avoid many trials, and those that live faithfully do live on a higher plane and are blessed. I mean, that's a fact. I mean, surveys, studies show that Christians are happier. Christians have less health issues. Christians, are benefited. But again, we're not exempt from all problems. But we do have the blessing of when we do go through a problem, God's going to use it for good. He's going to use it for his honor and glory. The trials that he does allow us to go through, we understand from this that bad things happen in this world. So this woman did not indicate in the story that she was mad at God or that she blamed God. Okay? So when you go through a trial, it's a trial. We're not denying that. Scraping the bottom of the barrel is not fun, because that means you basically run out of options, you've run out of ideas. But as a Christian, you're mature and you know that, you live in a sin-cursed world. Bad stuff is going to happen. Hopefully not near as much bad stuff as happens to lost people. But you have faith and trust in God. And that perspective keeps you from going crazy, pulling your hair out. Number 2, we learn that we're human. And when bad things happen, our spirits can falter. We're human. When bad things happen, our spirits can falter. You see that in this woman. Look at verse number 12. And she said, as the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake, but a handful of meal in a barrel, and a little oil in a cruse. And behold, I am gathering 2 sticks, that I may go in and dress it for me and my son, that we may eat it and die. They haven't died yet. They're not on their deathbed yet. But in her mind and in her spirit, she was there. She was discouraged. We often, when we find ourselves at the bottom of the barrel, tend to focus only on the immediate circumstances. When she makes this statement to Elijah, she's just looking at the barrel, she's looking at the oil, and that's all she sees, and there's nothing there to encourage her at all. The circumstances and situations like that can seem overwhelming. She is making a mistake at this time of getting her eyes off the Lord. She thought all hope was lost. Okay, Elijah, we're going to die. And this is it. It is hope. I've checked. I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel. There's no food anywhere else. There's nothing that can be done. And if we're not careful, we will find ourselves thinking the same way. And so what does Elijah do? He comes to her and he interjects God into the equation. He says, God's going to provide. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. So maybe you're going through a tough time right now and you're at the bottom of the barrel. You need to be reminded, hey, God is still alive and you're still his child. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. I've just looked at the bottom of the barrel. And my resources seems to be exhausted, but guess what? His are never exhausted. Don't be shocked when you are at the bottom of the barrel that you might be tempted to despair. Elijah, the one who is telling this woman to have faith in God, later on the tables are going to be turned and Elijah's going to be fleeing and he's going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel. 1 Kings 19:4. This is Elijah, the same man that's encouraging this woman. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a juniper tree, and he requested for himself that he might die, and said, it is enough now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am not better than my fathers. You know, Elijah, a prophet, after seeing God do some great miracles, don't have time for him now, but he saw God do some great things, and then the enemy got after him, started chasing him, hunting him down like an animal, and he is discouraged, depressed, suicidal. He said, I'm going to die. The point is, we are human. The widow woman was human. Elijah was human. He reached the point where he thought it was over with. So be careful with your spirit. Realize that we are human, but we need to look to God. Our spirit can falter when bad things happen. And this message is going to be divided into two parts. And next week, we're going to teach you and show you what this woman did to catch her spirit and change her spirit. So, understand what we're dealing with. Lastly, number 3, she's dealing with a dire situation. Her spirit is down. We can relate to that. I've been down before. I've been discouraged. I've wanted to throw in the towel. But let's look how the story ends. If we handle it properly when we're scraping the bottom of the barrel, we will position ourselves for God's blessings. If we position ourselves, we will position ourselves for God's blessings. Look in verse number 15. And she went and did according to the saying of Elijah. She and he and her house did eat many days. And the barrel of meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by Elijah. It seemed as if all was lost, but God was still on the throne. So we can expect to have times in our lives when all appears lost and when we're scraping the bottom of the barrel. And our spirit will falter. We may want to go into anxiety, maybe even depression. And what does Elijah do? He gets her eyes back on the Lord. And this story has a happy ending. So you may be scraping at the bottom of the barrel now. Don't forget this quote. Someone said, I think the bottom of the barrel is where the answers are. I think we could rephrase it to say, if you think about it, at the bottom of the barrel is where God is. That's where she found God. So if you're at the bottom of the barrel this morning with any situation in your life and you don't know what else to do, you're wringing your hands, you've tried this, you've tried that, and all good stuff, but still the child is wayward. Still the spouse is very difficult. Remember, God is in control. Get your eyes off the circumstances and look to the Lord. And I want us as a congregation to have a mature, spiritual, biblical Christian attitude. That we understand, even though we're Christians, we live in a sin-cursed world. And we know bad things happen. You know. And again, I want to emphasize, I think by living the Christian life, you can avoid a lot of the perils and a lot of the heartache. I really think you can. But in this sin-cursed world, you're not going to avoid it all. Also, be aware and be conscious of the fact of your attitude and your spirit that it can falter. It can falter. And it's at that time you really need to look to the Lord. Rely heavily on Him. And then realize, handled properly, you position yourself for God to bless. Because there's some Christians, they go into a difficult situation, they're scraping the bottom of the barrel, and they give up on God. There's some that will, as Job's wife said, curse God. There are people that handle it wrong. We're going to all find ourselves from time to time at the bottom of the barrel, scraping the bottom of the barrel. This woman did not handle it wrong. We're going to look at next week what she did do. But I can tell you today what she didn't do. She didn't curse God and die. She didn't give up. I'm getting ahead of myself. So you'll do well to keep it in perspective that if you're scraping the bottom of the barrel as that woman was, there's a reason God has allowed it. and you want to make sure you handle it properly and make sure you don't do the wrong thing. Let's stand, please, with our heads bowed and our eyes closed. We will finish next Sunday morning. Maybe describing your life right now or certain aspects of your life right now as you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. You might say, Pastor, hit the nail on the head. Well, would you realize this morning the Lord wanted this message for you? He doesn't want you to throw in the towel. He doesn't want you to get mad at him. He wants you to handle it properly. He is aware of the trial, and he has shown himself to you in a very real way this morning through his word. And I'm not joking when I said literally. I had the outline for the first message. I had it all outlined out. I was well down the road on the second message. And then the Lord brought me to this message. And when he did, I thought, there must be somebody hurting. There must be somebody or several somebodies that need to hear this morning. So grab hold of God's word and thank God for it. Jade's going to play, and the invitation is open, and I hope you'll use this time to speak to the Lord. Thank you. You can look this way. I trust, I'd just be thrilled to know that the Lord used this to help you this morning. And next week, we're going to look more specifically of, put it in a greater focus as to what you can do. If you're here this morning and you don't know the Lord as your Savior, you don't know for sure you're going to heaven, I'd love to talk with you. I'll be out in the foyer afterwards. Also, if you are not a church member, you need to have a church home. And maybe you have some questions about church membership. Get in touch with me. See me after the service. If you've not been baptized, you need to be baptized. Maybe you have questions about that. You can see me right now out in the foyer. You can give me a call. You can drop in during the week. I'd love to talk to you about that. This afternoon, we will be having both our ministry team meeting, and I'm going to introduce you to I'm very excited about this. Now, in all honesty, you may not be that excited when I share it with you, but I'm going to share something new with you this afternoon. It's a gift to this church from Sharon and I, and a small gift, but a gift nonetheless. But I'm going to introduce you to it this afternoon, and I'm excited about that. And then we'll be having the Lord's Supper. So the family's going to take a break, and then the family's going to reassemble at 1:30. So I hope you'll be able to be there with us at 1:30. Let's bow our heads in prayer as we are dismissed this morning. I'm going to ask our youngest deacon, if he would, Brother Dustin Wise. Would you dismiss us in prayer this morning, please, Brother Dustin?